Back with more talk about the 4 agreements, and today we're digging into the second agreement, which is don't take things personally. Honestly, this is one of the hardest things to master. I find that to be true not just as a clinician that works with couples and individuals, but also as a person that struggles with taking things personally. It is so easy to get emotionally reactive when someone does something or says something or has a reaction of their own that we then take personally as individuals. The trick to this agreement is that you've got to remember that the way someone else is showing up is about them. It's not about you. Now, yes, there are some, exceptions to this rule. If you are intentionally being mean or horrible to someone and they react badly, that could be about something that you've done. So it's more helpful to remember that like 99% of things that someone else shows up with is about them, not about you. It's like a mirror that you can use to reflect back on them whatever it is that they're throwing at you. And this is entirely possible to master, but man, if it is not a struggle. And I find that it's even harder in relationship land because we tend to be more emotionally reactive with people that we love and care about the most. And usually the person in that role in our lives is our significant other. So it's important sometimes to go back to that checklist that I mentioned last week. Does it need to be said? Does it need to be said now? Does it need to be said by me? Not only is this the checklist to sort of ask yourself about when you're getting ready to say something, but you can kind of change that a little bit and be like, so is this reaction that I'm getting from this other person about me? Is this having anything to do with anything that's been going on right now or in the very recent past in our interactions? And is this something that's even mine to fix, right? So it's helpful to kind of take these ideas and build them on each other. Now, you can also see how if we're not being impeccable with our words in a relationship, that's going to also lead to the potential for emotions to be very high, for emotions to get really worked up, and potentially now you're having a taking something personally problem because the words weren't being used impeccably. Part of the reason I love the 4 agreements is that they are so simple in theory, and as we start to talk about how to build these into real agreements that you can make with yourself and that you can make in your relationship, it's also important to look at, okay, but how? How do we go about implementing these things? So the very first thing I want you to do, the next time you're about to take something personally that your significant other has said or done, is to really check in first and ask, have I done anything, intentionally or not, that is causing them to react this way? Or is this a reflection of something they are going through? And instead of taking it personally and then developing my own emotional reaction to it, is there a way I can sit with them to try and understand what it is that is causing this reaction in them? And that's how you start to build a same team mentality within your relationship. And you also make it a safe place for both people to show up with the full range of emotion. Because if every time someone shows up with an emotion, the other person takes it personally, and then it devolves into arguing and nothing is getting accomplished, that's not really solving anything. That's not getting that needle to move forward in the relationship. So that's my challenge for you today, is to really check in and see how often are you taking things personally in your life, in your relationship, and what sort of a pattern interrupt can you create in your brain to check in with yourself anytime you start to become emotionally on the hook for someone else's stuff. And then you want to come back for next week's blog on what it's like to then not make assumptions, because the don't take things personally and the don't make assumptions go hand in hand. But that's agreement 3. I want you to spend some time absorbing agreement 2 first and let me know what questions you have.